Henlo, one and all. My name is Lila, or Leo, and this video is a bit different to what currently exists on the channel. While in truth, the channel is going to be more than just speed paints, I thought this would be a good way to break into the other two things I intend to have on the channel, commentaries and Minecraft. Now, with the Wild update having just been released, I thought it would be a good time to finally air my grievances with how Mojang has handled updates. And before we start, I want to make it very clear that I do not hate the update. I actually quite enjoy what we were given. I'm just disappointed by what was cut. The Wild update was going to be a big undertaking, though not as ambitious as the Caves and Cliffs update. We would finally be getting the Deep Dark, which they promised during Caves and Cliffs, as well as a brand new biome called the Mangrove Swamp, an overhaul of the Birch Forest, frogs and tadpoles, a new wood type, DLA, and fireflies. Sadly, the Birch Forest and fireflies were cut from the update, and we don't know if we'll ever get them at this point. Mojang has tried to address the things they didn't add, but saying that concept art isn't a promise, while also talking in depth about these concepts during Minecraft Live, making it seem like it was a promise that it would be in the update. I can completely understand the virus making things difficult on everyone. Hell, it's a big reason as to why Caves and Cliffs was split in two. Sadly, that means that only roughly 2/3 of the promised content even made it into the update. That's not counting the Deep Dark. My thoughts on the Deep Dark are probably the same or quite similar to most people's. It turned out really well, probably in part from being in development for 3 update cycles. The large frame in the center of the ancient cities definitely looks like a portal frame of some kind, but who knows what Mojang has in mind for it. The Warden is an interesting mob to be sure, the first blind mob in the game, but also the first mob who hears and smells the player. While it can be considered a boss mob, it responds naturally. Multiple can be roaming around the ancient cities at once if a player or multiple players run around carelessly, which can make them a pretty big threat. With the Warden able to two-shot someone in god armor, this poses a bit of a problem when they can hit you through walls and at a rather long distance. All the more reason to be careful and sneak. Onto the design, it's heckin' cool. Though the concept art has a few different horn or ear designs, it would be pretty cool if all of the different versions could spawn and give some variety to the mob. But that's just a minor thing. Skulk is interesting. I know what they were going for, and the blocks look cool, but the mechanic is a bit strange. I don't say that it's a bad thing, however. The Skulk Catalyst is a very useful block when it comes to XP farms, making them very AFKable. They will also spawn Skulk Sensors, wireless redstone. Wireless redstone is something people have been wanting to be able to do for quite a while, though the noise mechanic is going to be a tad tricky to work with in my opinion. The Skulk Shriekers will be likely the most horrifying block in vanilla Minecraft, letting out a terrifying shriek and causing your vision to go dark as it summons the Warden. And finally, Skulk and Skulk Veins. Breaking these with a hoe gives you XP, and are formed when the Skulk Catalyst collects EXP. The Mangrove Swamp is definitely a nice biome. New blocks were added for the biome, including mud bricks, and mangrove trees. Unfortunately, we didn't get the reeds or cattails a lot of us thought were visible in the concept art, but that's a petty complaint. With the mangrove trees and propagules, it's interesting. The propagules are the first sapling that can be placed in and out of water, while the trees are the most complex tree that has been added to the game. The trees have a full-on root system. These roots can be filled with mud, water, or air, and When full of water and stacked, it connects properly. The mangrove wood comes in a new color as well, red. Crimson wood is not red, it's purple. The wood comes in all of its wooden variants, and boats have been updated. You can have chest boats. The birch forest looked like it was going to be so nice, so immersive, but unfortunately it was cut from the update. So I'm going to tell you what it is that I see that was taken away from us. The birch trees would have been enhanced a bit, both with varying heights, but it looks like they may have also gotten small branches, mushrooms on the side of the trees, as well as fallen, hollowed logs. This is a bit more speculative, but I think we would have had more beehives naturally spawning on the side of these trees due to the increased number of flowers seen around the base of said trees. Fireflies, fireflies, fireflies. They were something I'm sure a lot of people other than just me were really excited for, adding so much ambiance to the nighttime, especially in the swamps and forests. Unfortunately, with fireflies being toxic to frogs in the real world, they were cut from the update. Honestly, it's kinda dumb. In our world, frogs have learned not to eat them, so why can't it just be coded in that frogs won't eat fireflies? It's just something we'll have to ask ourselves. Lord knows Mojang won't give us a proper answer about it. With them lowering the bedrock came with a new ore distribution and rock types. To fill out this new space, caves were completely overhauled. Water and lava-filled caverns, dripstone caves, and lush caves. With the introduction of the lush cave came the axolotl, glowberries, and azalea trees. Unfortunately, the azalea trees are just another tree with oak wood. It definitely would have been cool to get a white wood that wasn't the same cream color as birch. By raising the build height, the way mountains were formed was changed. The highest peaks of the mountains now covered in snow and powdered snow, where no mobs could really spawn. So came the goats, to live on the mountains higher than the llamas. From what I remember, nothing was really cut from this update, but because of just how big the Deep Dark was planned to be, it was too much of an undertaking for this update, hence why it was released as part of the Wild update. There was a number of bugs, and due to the massive change in terrain generation, the team had to split the update in two. I can't blame them for doing this, as it was an absolutely massive update. It definitely did the team some good to have more time to work on this update, instead of having to rush it. If the update had been rushed, who knows how it would have turned out. While it is really cool that we in the community get to vote on a mob that gets added during each update, I don't think as many of us would have voted for some of them if we knew exactly what we would be getting. The best example of this would be the Phantom. While it's nice to have a real incentive to sleep away the nights, this missed the mark. Hard. Had we known just how annoying and infuriating this mob would become, it likely wouldn't have won. The way it was presented made many of us think that would be something that spawned in high altitudes, maybe all day. As night falls, they would come down to see who hadn't slept and attack in groups of 1 or 2, not spawn on players who hadn't slept in groups of upwards of 6. If you are a group of players who haven't slept in a while, you have so many of these creatures to deal with before you can sleep. It would be much easier to vote without regret if we knew more about these mobs beforehand, instead of having such bare bones ideas of what these mobs would be, such as behavior and spawning requirements. It would make things a lot easier. Even if that means the vote is more split, it would be more fair to all mobs involved. This would also mean that we, as the players, would be less disappointed in how useless some of the mobs we voted for would be. like the glow squid. So when I started this script, I tweeted out a picture of my introduction and asked for input, because it helps to have more than one perspective on anything. DK Machine, a mostly Minecraft and Hytale YouTuber, responded to my tweet with the following.
I disagree with Minecraft/Mojang's ethos. Not allowing hostile creatures from real-life influences to be in the game is ridiculous in my opinion. Removing a 2-pixel creature because in real life it's toxic to an animal is ridiculous. And not allowing vertical slabs because creativity is ridiculous.
While it'd be cool to get some hostile mobs that exist in the real world, they would have to be very careful as to not enforce bad stigmas against them. For example, sharks or big cats. Sharks aren't actually hostile towards humans unless provoked. Most human deaths are simply a case of mistaken identity. Big cats are a bit of a spectrum. While some can be hostile towards humans, most aren't. So at the very least, if they were to be added, most if not all animals would be neutral. I'm sure I mentioned this earlier, but the fireflies, a simple fix that would mean they didn't have to be removed would be to make it so frogs don't eat them. Vertical slabs would be great. With them likely to be used as walls, it would also be nice to be able to combine 2 slabs of different types. So one side of the wall would be one thing and the other something else. That way interior walls wouldn't have to be 2 blocks thick. This section is just spitballing some ideas that could be entire updates, enhancements to prior updates, or even just the basis for some future updates. One update I know a fair number of us builders would love is an addition to the colors update, and it's the ability to dye wood. While I know this part is extremely unlikely, if this were to be added, it'd be a really neat detail if each wood type would dye differently, like birch having more pastel dyed planks and dark oak having very dark dyed planks. Speaking of wood, the mushroom stem, a pretty useless block for normal builds. With the crimson and warped stems also being mushrooms, why didn't the overworld's mushroom not get planks? This would go hand in hand with an update to the mushroom biome. Maybe a handful more animals that could spawn in the biome that aren't just special versions of the same animals we already have. A full update that I know a lot of us are wanting is a complete overhaul of the end dimension. Add a handful of biomes and maybe give the dragon fight and end cities a fresh coat of paint too. As the end is now, there's really no reason to go there other than to farm shulkers and get an elytra.